Hey guys, so if you're new here, my name is Liz. I use this channel to upload daily vlogs, kind of surrounding the trials and tribulations of my health and what kind of goes along with that, as well as trying to find the happiness in all of this. So I have wanted to do this video for a very long time. Pretty much as soon as I got my line placed, I wanted to do this video, but I obviously wanted to wait until I really knew what I was talking about and what I was doing before I kind of spread the knowledge. So what is a PICC line? PICC stands for peripherally inserted central catheter. So you see why we say PICC instead of that. It's very difficult to say, especially quickly. Anyway, so that basically means that the IV was placed peripherally, so pretty much not on my torso, and on my arms. And central catheter just means that the catheter that the IV has attached to it, and it's pretty much right above my heart. So this PICC line is a double lumen PICC line, which basically means that there's 2 ports on it. They also have a single lumen and they have triple lumen, so that's 1 port or 3 ports. The cool thing about this is that I can run 2 IVs at once, and often people who need to run more than just one type of bag or medication can run these at the exact same time. So I personally don't have any use for it as of right now, but it helps a lot of people and it brings the time attached to a pull down significantly. Another big question is, how long do these last? Now, in my situation and in the situation of other people needing them long term, they pretty much last until they stop working, essentially. It's just about a year, give or take. Some PICCs will stop working way sooner than others. It just depends on the person's body. But I am hoping that this lasts about a year, and then after I am done with my PICC line, I'm hoping to get a safer option placed, such as a port. Now, why do I do these infusions? So I do these infusions because I have an illness called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So we call that POTS because that is so much easier to say. So POTS basically is a form of autonomic nervous system dysfunction, or dysautonomia, which basically means that my autonomic nervous system doesn't function correctly. So your autonomic nervous system regulates kind of the things that are done automatically that we don't have to think about. So that includes blood flow, heart rate, blood pressure, temperature regulation, stuff like that. So I do feel a wide range of symptoms. Now, POTS is kind of activated in a way upon sitting or standing from lying down. And basically that happens because gravity pulls my blood down and blood pools into my legs, and because it's not in my torso, my heart rate kind of like increases and compensates and tries as hard as it can to pull the blood flow up, but then the tachycardia leads to a lot of uncomfortable symptoms. With tachycardia, almost always I have palpitations. Thankfully, I don't have to deal with that very much anymore due to the hydration. I get nauseous. A lot of people faint often from POTS. It causes digestion problems. It kind of causes a lot of problems that people don't realize are uncomfortable until we kind of have to deal with it. It's just because we're naturally used to not having to fight to have blood in the rest of our bodies. So POTS can be kind of pretty unsafe and totally not comfortable whatsoever. It's very, very uncomfortable. Now, the infusions themselves increase my blood volume. So basically what that means is that my blood is at a higher quantity than it was pre-hydration. For whatever reason, I drink orally and my body just doesn't hold onto the water correctly. So if I actually skip a day of doing my infusions, the day that towards the end of the day I skip, my lips start cracking and my mouth gets really dry, and there's just kind of a lot of weird dehydration symptoms, even though I'm drinking. So drinking water, increasing water intake, and increasing sodium intake are the two most important things with POTS, which I do both of a lot. We increased my sodium intake when we found out I had POTS by a lot. And again, my body just doesn't hold on to it. It's really strange. Now, there are regular medications that people go on to for POTS. This is actually considered more of like a last resort, but my gastroenterologist, for whatever reason, didn't feel comfortable medicating me for it, and he felt more comfortable with the PICC line. So I had this placed about 6 weeks ago. It's not something I would be nervous about if I had to do it again, which odds are I probably will, but I wouldn't be nervous about it for the second time. But I was in a fully equipped OR. I did it outpatient, but I was in a fully equipped OR, and they completely draped me. They put like a topical anesthetic on, did lidocaine injections, and then they placed the catheter. So basically, they did that by using an ultrasound machine to locate the very large vein in my arm that this runs into. It's deep. I can't feel the catheter at all. It's deep. But they had to use an ultrasound to find that vein, and then they were using a fluoroscopy machine, which is basically an X-ray machine. They were using a fluoroscopy machine to make sure that while they were placing it, the catheter was ending exactly where it should be. So the procedure, all in all, I was probably in the OR for like a half an hour just because of prep and getting everything with the doctor and the nurses and the staff and everything. It took about a half an hour. Now I was fully awake, no sedation, no anxiety medication, nothing. And all I really had was the local anesthetic. Now it was uncomfortable, it wasn't painful, but I was shaking because I was very nervous. But it was only uncomfortable. There was no point where I was like bracing for pain. So placement was not as bad as I expected it to be. Moving on to the next question, kind of related. Can you feel it? No. Most of the time I don't feel anything going on here at all. Now, if my flushes, my little saline flushes, if these or the IV bags are either refrigerated or in a location where an air condition was on, anything like that, then I do feel a very cold sensation inside of my arm. And if it's the bag, it generally ends up spreading to my body, which is really good if you're not feeling well and hot. So totally okay with that. But other than that, no, I don't feel it at all. So am I used to it? Was it hard to adjust to? It was hard to adjust to at first. You know, nobody's used to having hardware just like hanging out of their arm at home. So that was a little difficult to get used to. And then sleeping was difficult because I tend to move, I guess, around a lot in my sleep, and I wrap my extensions sometimes around my body. If I'm running fluids overnight, I wake up with a tubing all wrapped up. So it took a little bit of getting used to get used to it. But I'm pretty used to it, but it does still get in the way, and it is still annoying. It also has changed kind of the way that I dress. I do have covers that are like pretty and don't look medical at all, and I put those on sometimes, but it's usually only if I'm like going out to dinner or seeing people. Like I went to the boardwalk like a week ago, and I had it taped up, but it was just kind of chilling because that for right now is what's most comfortable for me, but it's totally different for everybody involved. I tend to kind of, if I'm home at least, I tend to just like let it hang out. Now I actually step on my tubing quite often. With the PICC line, it kind of snaps into place with this thing called a stat lock, which is, it's an adhesive basically that's stuck to my skin. So even if I pull really hard, it doesn't pull my PICC line at all. It only pulls the stat lock. So thankfully that's something I don't have to worry about. Now there are definitely a bunch of great things about PICC lines, and there's definitely a bunch of bad things about PICC lines. So the great things that I've experienced is that I have not had to have a needle stick in 6 weeks since placement. It is such a beautiful thing, especially after spending 7 months of going to and from infusions all the time and having to get regular IVs all the time. So that is a huge plus for me. Another gigantic plus is that I can run these at my leisure whenever I want to, however much I want to. I can do whatever I want within, obviously, the terms of my prescription, but I have complete control over this, and that is one of the really great things about it. Now, the last thing that's really great about it is that if I don't get admitted to the hospital for sepsis, but I do get admitted to the hospital, they can just use my line, they can extract blood from the line, they can do everything, and I don't have to get stuck with a needle, which is awesome, because I have veins blow all the time. Now the negative things. The two biggest negative things about PICC lines and central lines in general is infection risk. Now, being that this has to be accessed all the time, there's a very, very high risk for sepsis. Sepsis, if not treated or treated too late, is fatal. It is very, 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 very serious. I have friends who have gone through sepsis and they say that they felt that they were dying, basically, because they were. And one of my really good friends actually waited too long and was admitted to the hospital with a fever of 109. So sepsis is very deadly, very, very, very quickly. So if I don't sanitize correctly, or if I don't clean out my line before I use it, it's like instant sepsis. It's not something to be messed with, so I make sure I'm very, very careful with my line. Another huge con is showering. I'm gonna just insert a video here about what I have to do to prep to shower. Showering has gotten down to twice a week. I can't do it more often. I just don't have the energy to. But here's what it takes for me to take a shower. So now all I do is I take a paper towel, cover my lumens in the dressing, tape it down. Then I wrap my arm about 5 times in cling wrap and then tape down the ends. I then put the shower cover on, make sure that there's a cone shape on each end, and tape that down as well. And then while I'm showering, I keep my arm held up and I do not use it, as PICC lines cannot get wet whatsoever. Another thing with PICC lines is that the dressing has to be changed weekly. So basically a nurse comes to me at home, which is awesome, every week. She takes this tape off that's holding it down and uses alcohol to sanitize the entire area and put a new dressing on top of it. So this stat lock, this little disc, and this tape is all changed weekly, which is awesome. These white pieces are also changed weekly, and my extension is changed weekly. This extension, sorry, is changed weekly. And this is all to prevent infection. So with dressing changes comes dressing change kits. Nobody doesn't use these. So these have everything the nurse needs to do the dressing change. It has 2 sets of gloves, a mask, it has the tape, it has the alcohol. So these things are awesome. So dressing changes only take 15 to 20 minutes. She starts by putting on the first set of gloves and establishing the sterile field. She then removes the dressing from the previous week, including the stat lock. So this is actually how my PICC line looks. She then uses betadine to completely sanitize my entire insertion site. After that, she uses regular alcohol to clean away the color of the betadine and to cleanse the area one last time. She then secures the PICC line into the stat lock and adheres it to my skin. She applies the biodisc and then puts on the dressing, which in my case I use a Tegaderm. Removes all extra pieces and flushes both lines after changing my extension. She then uses steri strips to secure the lumens in place so that they don't rip off of my arm that easily. She then measures my arm and takes my vitals, and that is it. So that's about it. I just wanted to kind of go into depth and go behind the scenes with my PICC line and kind of explain the care and everything that has to go with it. So if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. I also upload daily vlogs on this channel, so definitely hit the subscribe button as well if you're interested. A lot of it is medical, but I am also working towards kind of coming to a state of more happiness and trying to find, you know, kind of like the good things in all of this, which is very, very hard, but I am on this journey and I made changes to my channel recently to reflect that. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys soon.